In a recent video, I talked about all of my favorite movies, and today we're doing the same but with TV shows. So these will be a few less than the movies, but yeah, those TV shows I hold dear to my heart, and most of them I've rewatched multiple times, maybe one or two times too often. But yeah, I love them a lot. Most of them are, quite popular. Some of them are a bit more niche. And yeah, I hope you take away something from this video. First off, we have Fleabag, with and written by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and it is based on a one-woman theater performance she did, and then Prime, I think Amazon Prime, made a TV show out of that starring her in her own role. Basically, it's a drama show all about modern womanhood and centering her character and how she's dealing with grief and relationships and just the modern world. And this one quirk about this TV show that makes it so interesting, I think, to people is that she often talks to the camera, which the people she's talking to don't know. So basically, she is in a conversation, talking to people, then she looks in the camera and makes a comment and then just continues talking to the people and they don't know what's going on. And I just love that TV show so much. It has 2 seasons, I think, with each 6 episodes that are only 20 minutes or so. So it's a pretty short TV show. I think I watched it once in a couple of days and then a couple of days later I watched it again and it was just so good and it's so funny, it's so quirky, and it's just so on point. And I love how she writes jokes and it's so funny to me. It's one of the funniest TV shows or movies I've ever watched, and it just hits a spot with me. And I think it's pretty female coded, so the audience might be more targeted towards women because that's kind of what the show is about. But I think for anyone and everyone, it is something there. I showed it to my parents, for example, and they both loved it, especially the second season where Andrew Scott plays a priest that she encounters and kind of builds this connection with. And I love their connection, the relationship so much, and everything about it is just so good. And every episode kind of tells us a small story out of her life, and it's just so good. Go watch the first episode. It's super short, so if you don't like it, don't continue on, but it's definitely worth a shot. And yeah, you're not wasting your time. Up next, we have BBC's Sherlock, with Benedict Cumberbatch as Sherlock Holmes and Martin Freeman as Dr. Watson. And this is a huge childhood memory because I used to watch that when I was very, very young, and I used to rewatch it frequently since then, and I showed it to a lot of friends and stuff. And for me, those 2 characters and the way they interpreted them is so close and feels like friends to me even. Like, I love this show so much, especially like the first 3 seasons. It has 4 in total. I think in season 4 it all changed vibes a bit. I don't know, I love that season still, but especially 1 to 3, I just could watch any episode now and would be content for the next 90 minutes, because every season has roughly 3 episodes, each 90 minutes, so they're pretty long episodes, more like movies. But I think the show needs that, and the stories need those long episodes to kind of wrap up, because they kind of, they watch like their own mystery and then it gets closed, but the overarching story is as well, and the villains and the themes in their lives and just how they're written, like the characters and how they play it. They just, I don't know, they connect to me in a way. I don't know, but I just love them so much. So I will rewatch this probably till the end of my life because I just love those characters so much and I just love hanging out with them. And I don't know, it's such a good interpretation. Next up, The Last of Us. This is, I think, one of the best recent TV shows they are made. I think it is just so well crafted. It's basically based on a video game called The Last of Us. I think there are 2 parts out, which I have not played, but it's based on that video game, and it is with Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, I think that's how she's called. And basically it's in a world where a virus, a fungi, broke out and basically turned people into zombies in, the blink of an eye. And then we go basically 20 years later and live in this post-apocalyptic world where everyone is just trying to survive. And our main character, played by Pedro Pascal, he is in need of some supplies and basically takes on the task to, get this little girl, roughly around 12, 13, I think, to take her over the country, which is very dangerous and deliver her somewhere, which we don't really know, but he has just this task, and he's in need of some supplies, so he does it, and we see this wonderful journey of them both just not being compatible at all. They don't like being with each other. They hate their situation they're in, but we just see them bond over their experience together and their journey together, and seeing this relationship and connection form is just so beautiful. And I think I don't know, I love this trope of having a father figure adopting kind of like a child which they don't want in the first place, or have some underlying trauma that they do not want to assess yet. But I love this trope, and I think it's so well done in this, in the series. And it's not just a zombie TV show. I think that's what's putting a lot of people off, or what other people expect from it and then are disappointed. It's really about the last people, like The Last of Us, the people who survived all this, stuff, and who are now left on this earth fighting for their life. And those stories about the people we see in this TV show in these few episodes are just so wonderful, so heartbreaking, devastating. I must tell you, I cried nearly every episode. It was just so well made. I think the score is perfect. It's similar to the one from the game. The cinematography and the CGI is well done and has a lot of tension, but the pacing is also so good that you get into this really edge of your seat moment into much more softer dialogue driven moments. And I think the pacing is just so good, and it's definitely one of the best TV shows I've seen in the past 5 years or so. Okay, then we're gonna go skip over this one pretty quickly. It's Game of Thrones. I'm a sucker for fantasy, I'm a sucker for the books, I'm a sucker for this TV show, and I don't have a lot to say about it. Everyone knows and everyone's seen it, but I think it deserves its spot on this list because it's just it's such a staple and it's so iconic, and I love it so much. And even the last 1 or 2 seasons, which everyone seems to hate, and I do as well to some extent, I do think that the second they didn't have the books to rely on, they kind of went, I don't know, they went into a weird direction, and the pacing was weird. It got wrapped up way too soon, and yeah, it was not as well done as the first seasons, but I think they're still a good season compared to other TV shows. And I think it gets a bit too much hate for that almost, but I definitely get where they're coming from. I also am disappointed in those last seasons, but it's still enjoyable. It has some pretty cool scenes. So I would never watch until season 6 or 7 and then just stop there. I don't know. But when I first watched it, I thought, why not wait for the books to be completed? But I mean, it's like 10 years later and the book's still not finished. So I mean, what are they supposed to do? The first seasons and up until season 6, especially I think the middle season, like season 3, 4, 5, are just so good. Just skip over that. I talked way too much about this TV show that everyone's watched. Then also very popular, Breaking Bad. I mean, who would have thought? Not me. I actually watched that or finished it quite recently. I did start watching it up until in the middle of season 3 a couple of years back, and then for some reason that is unknown to me, I stopped. But a couple of weeks ago or months ago, I started it from the beginning, from season and episode 1, and finished it a couple of weeks ago, and it was just so good, But let's not talk about that. It's a fucking amazing TV show, maybe the best that was ever made. And this is also one of those TV shows that it doesn't matter what it is about. I think the plot could have been something entirely different, but how well it was crafted was what made it worth watching. And that is pretty rare, I think. Usually you have to be interested kind of in the scenario, and I was in that situation, but this could have been about literally anything. I don't care, but it was so well made. Every scene was just so perfectly written and executed, and I mean, Breaking Bad, let's stop talking about it. It's good. And then last but not least, definitely not least, because this is maybe my favorite watching experience I've ever had. And this is a mini series, or a mini TV show called Chernobyl, which is about, the 1986 disaster. And it is, I think, 5 or 6 episodes. So it's basically about the explosion itself, the rescue efforts afterwards, and also what I think was the most interesting part was the cover-ups that were, going on after that, and also the human and systematic failure that led to, the explosion and it all happening. And this, I think, was the best most exquisitely crafted TV show I've ever seen in my life. Each episode was so good. The pacing and the order they were showing us the events, they didn't go just for the chronological timeline. They specifically were trying to show scenes and events, happening before and after that, like in different order, and it made so much sense. The acting, the cinematography, everything was so good, and it went straight into my chest, into my heart. Even though you already know what happened at this point, I mean, it's pretty much known to everyone in this entire earth, it's still super interesting. I was not really aware how much it was due to human systematic failure of the Soviet Union at that point. That could have been deviated from the beginning, but it was just so good. And I did watch it twice. I watched it and then immediately went back and watched it again, and I could watch it every day for the rest of my life because it was just phenomenal. I don't even know what to tell you about it. It was just 5 stars, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, 6 million out of 10 actually. And it was devastating. They showed a lot of the people who were affected by the radiation and what it does to the human body. So if you don't like to see that, maybe skip over the scenes. I would still advise you to go watch the TV show, but maybe skip over it because it was very visual. And but I think that was also what makes it so real and so devastating. I don't know what to tell you, but it was, I don't know, it was so good. And that was actually it. There are a couple of, runner-ups like Peaky Blinders or The Crown, but I think this list is complete for me. Those TV shows are also very good, and I have obviously a lot of other TV shows that I loved, but those 5 I think are just special to me and stuff that I would be recommending to everyone and stuff that I could be rewatching every day. I hope you enjoyed. Hit the like button, subscribe if you want to, and see you in my next video. Bye.